Today we have Tom Boyce speaking with us, who is a Primal health coach. Tom is super experienced in carnivore, keto, low carb eating, and has had his own health transformation and journey via this way of life. Tom's an absolute font of knowledge, and we're lucky enough to have him here to explain to us what you can expect on the carnivore diet, because 30 days of strict carnivore is not all roses. The benefits you might get, like mental clarity, endless energy, fat loss, and muscle gain, are obviously amazing. But with that comes a transition period for your body. And that's something that Tom can really explain here. So Tom, welcome. And mate, what can people expect doing a 30 days on the carnivore diet?
Hey guys, thank you for the little intro, Simon. That was epic. Yeah, I think I sort of like to start off by saying, like, we have lived and consumed a fuel for the majority of our life since we come out the womb. And then all of a sudden we want to jump on a completely different fuel. So usually all of us are being fueled by carbohydrates, and then all of a sudden we want to go cold turkey and then jump on the fat bandwagon. The body's physiology is going to have a pretty difficult time going through that, but there are ways in which we can alleviate those stresses and make it more comfortable. And, you know, we don't want to be doing a 30-day challenge and then having a really poor time for 30 days and then never wanting to do such a thing again. So, yeah, with that transition, obviously switching fuel sources is quite difficult for us. And we might just experience things like lacking energy, which is the opposite of what we're going for. We could be waking up in the middle of the evening to go to the bathroom, or really thirsty. A lot of people say they struggle with digestion, so we can be almost talking about constipation, diarrhea. Both ends of the spectrum there can be experienced. And like I said, we're just going to touch on things that can alleviate those stresses and make it a more comfortable time, which I think when people jumping on these sort of challenges and trying to shift in any sort of positive manner for their lifestyle, without guidance and knowledge from people who have done it before, we seem to either say it doesn't work for us and then bag on that particular style of eating, or we just don't sort of see the results we were hoping to get. So hopefully with this little intro video, it'll keep people on for 30 days and then hopefully transcend into the next 30 days, 30 years, hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you go into this blind and cold turkey without the support that you need, it can be a real shock to the system. And yeah, people are quick to declare, hey, this doesn't work, or, I feel sick, I feel nauseous. When, from my experience with you, Tom, there are certain kind of tricks and certain ways that you can help your body adapt. The first one that I thought we might talk about is you talk a lot about adding salt and electrolytes to food and water. Can you expand on that a little bit, please, Tom?
Yeah, I won't go too deep or too into the weeds with it. It's just when we are not using the fuel of carbohydrates or glucose, when we let go of a lot of carbohydrates, people talk about water weight and stuff like that. When you're getting rid of your carbs, you lose all your water weight, and that's where the weight loss comes from. Unfortunately, with that, when you lose water weight, you lose water retention, and then sodium, potassium, magnesium, you lose all of those electrolytes at the same time. So we aren't as efficient to hold on to those electrolytes. So what we want to do is just keep retopping up with mostly sodium and like a good Celtic sea salt, or a good natural sea salt. No plastics involved in that would be ideal. It's just going for a better quality source of sea salt rather than your table salt. And then what I sort of prescribe to people is just getting like a half decent pink Himalayan sea salt. That's got a lot of trace elements in it. So I think that's bang for your buck. That's a good place to start. So we just want to be topping up on our electrolytes, and the cheapest, most efficient way to do that is by adding salt to our drinking water. And then just liberally salting our food. So yeah, starting with pink salt, and I would just put a pinch, or however you can measure that in your drinking water throughout the day. I add it to all my bottles of water. Filtered water is obviously essential. and then to put those minerals and electrolytes back in there, just to taste. So every bottle of drinking water, if you can taste a bit of salt, that's enough. And with these challenges and with this shift, your body will learn when it wants salt, and when it doesn't, your body will know and it'll tell you. So that's a pretty good place to start. It's just, we're not consuming a lot of carbohydrates, which holds onto water, and then which holds onto our electrolytes. So people will experience things like nausea, headaches, dizziness, blackouts. There's a range, there's a spectrum. Everyone's going to be a little bit different, but that is just mainly a sign of dehydration. But also, you can be drinking all the water you like, but if you're not topping up on those electrolytes, you're still going to be dehydrated. So sodium is a big player.
Yeah, absolutely. I've found the hydration sachets from LMNT have really helped me, and it's just like it sort of clears the head instantly. Even though I'm pounding these bottles of water, it just feels like I'm not holding the weight, not holding the water, and not getting obviously the minerals and the salt that I need. Okay, cool. That's a really interesting point. Tom, are there any other supplements that you'd recommend taking?
Just off the top of my head, like I supplement with magnesium. I think Australian soils are just not, we just don't have enough magnesium in the soil. Same with like zinc and copper and stuff like that. But zinc and copper you can get through, if you're eating nose to tail or supplementing with organs, that's where those minerals will come from.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll supplement with a good magnesium, usually a 3 and 8 or bisglycinate. So those are the two that I would sort of recommend. 3 and 8 is good for the brain, and then bisglycinate is sort of good for your muscle cramps and that sort of stuff too. So powders or tablets, however you want to take your magnesium. And then supplements, like I just sort of touched on, would be organ supplements, because they are the bioavailable form. We try to sort of, with this style of eating, we try to avoid supplements. We want to be getting our nutrients through food, because as I said, they are the most bioavailable. Usually if you're getting supplements from a store, if they're not from a health food store especially, they're going to be not in the active form, and they're going to be full of fillers, and we're just not going to be absorbing them. Like, it's all well and good to take them, but your body just will not assimilate those synthetic nutrients. So yeah, I just sort of go with good salt or electrolyte mix. Like you said, Element's really good. Trying to suss out a good Aussie one.
Yeah.
Sodium, magnesium, and then if you get a good organ supplement, I think that covers a lot of the bases. But then you're looking into people's circumstantial health, if they need a B complex and stuff like that. But generally, an organ supplement, magnesium and some salt is a perfect way to start, and that's not costly. So
yeah, sure. What other tips do you have for us, for new people to the 30-day carnivore challenge to overcome some of these challenges?
So a good one, just like off the top of my head, sort of whilst I'm with the magnesium situation, if you're experiencing like any sort of GI distress or bloating or gas or anything like that, the magnesium is really going to help with the constipation or the opposite. So yeah, that's where the salt and the magnesium come into play too. So you want to give your GI tract the most efficient chance it has. And then with that, thinking of things to consume, like, we're talking about supplements. I consider like a bone broth a supplement, and a collagen powder. So I religiously every single day I'll have a bone broth and a collagen, because it's the main thing is when transitioning to like a more animal-based style eating pattern, people tend to go for all the muscle meats because it's more palatable. It's it's more accessible.
For sure.
And the reason why we throw in the bone broth is there because bone broth is really high in glycine, and then there is a ratio that we need to be careful of. Muscle meat has a lot of methionine in it, so these are all amino acids, and we need a good ratio of glycine and methionine. So that's why I have a bone broth every single day to balance that out. So whilst it would be nice to have ribeyes every single day, you need to be getting enough glycine. So bone broth has ample amounts of that to balance that out. And if that ratio is a bit off, depending on the person, they could be experiencing worse off symptoms than others. So that's just sort of a really good key player in the sort of transition into low carb is a bone broth, and the collagen powder will go a long way gut health. And then that's just like, that's nice as well in terms of people who are struggling. Like if they don't want to eat, which is generally pretty common, you go from eating a pretty like high volume type of style eating with not a lot of nutrient density, satiety, heaps of protein, a lot of fat. You won't be hungry, but we want to be conscious of still giving our body, signals and chances to, allow mechanisms to take place, and without tanking thyroid, stuff like that. So bone broth is good to chuck in throughout the day, bone broth. And then you can get creative with it, collagen powders, you can put egg yolks in there. I just sort of, go a bit bananas with it. I think that's a good little addition to every single day, even like a couple cups a day if you can. And at Mackenzie's, you guys are stocking Jevity now, which is like benchmark, I think, in Australia anyway. Jevity and then Best of the Bone are the two best brands for people to go out there and buy. I've used a bunch. I've used as many as I can get my hands on, and those two are the best by far. So,
and super convenient with Jevity. Like I have the burn in the morning, which has like green tea and matcha in it, and it's literally just a scoop into a cup of boiling water, and it's super quick and easy.
Yeah, so convenient. Like, we want this to be an easy transition for people working, people not working, all of that sort of stuff, and to have like a hot drink first thing in the morning if you're subbing it for your coffee or whatever. Yeah, like you said, it's literally a concentrate, spoonful into the boiling water, heaps of different flavors. A lot of people are sort of like, oh, I don't like the taste and blah, blah, blah. But there's no excuses. Like there is ample flavors. Like they're delicious. You've probably tried a bunch of them yourself, and yeah, they taste awesome. So it'd be silly not to incorporate something like that. Very easy.
Totally. And another thing that people struggle with, Tom, is digesting the fat. So you're eating like, way more fat plus zero carbs compared to what you normally would. How do we catch up and not, ideally reduce the explosive diarrhea that can be a common side effect?
Joe Rogan disaster pants. I had experienced that personally
as a couple of years ago.
Yeah, when I didn't really know, and this is the thing. Like, this conversation needs to broaden because these things are so easily, treated as such. And like back then, I didn't really know who to ask, and I can't message Sean Baker and Carnivore MD because they're untouchable, So yeah, I just wanted someone to really just be able to lean on and ask questions to. So I guess this is why it's a perfect time to broaden the conversation. But on that, it's an enzyme thing. So we're just not unfortunately, for the last 50 to 100 years, we've been told not to consume, or 70 years maybe, not to consume saturated fat. So if you can think, as soon as you come out the womb, you're not having much saturated fat past breast milk really, and then those enzymes sort of go away because they're like, hey, we don't need to break down as much fat. So then transitioning into something that's very fat dense, protein dense, we need to sort of boost or awaken the enzymes again. This is very layman's terms, but I'm trying to break it down super simple for everyone.
Language I can understand. I'm enjoying this, Matt.
Yeah, that's another one. It's like a barrier that needs to be sort of molded a bit better. But yeah, so what I would recommend is getting a digestive enzyme capsule or an ox bile. So ox bile is like sort of benchmark, but any digestive enzyme complex will sort of do that from a health food store. And I would recommend taking a capsule every single day, just before every meal. I found that worked best for me, and then a few people who I've also spoken to about in terms of when they're transitioning into a more animal-based diet. So yeah, one capsule before every single meal, and you can do that for as long as you feel comfortable. Anywhere from like 5 to 7 days, 4 to 7 days is usually enough to awaken those enzymes again, and then the gallbladder will produce enough bile, and we'll have enough enzymes and whatnot to regulate that. But if you feel like there's been shown many other benefits to having digestive enzymes incorporated as a supplement. So if you feel like you operate better on them, then carry on using them. But yeah, you don't have to. It's just down to the individual and how their GI system is operating. So yeah, I think a digestive enzyme from the get-go is essential, because you don't want to be running to the toilet sort of after every single meal. It's not ideal.
Totally. If anything can help, take it, because it's a sort of pleasant feeling. Tom, you touched earlier on satiety and kind of, potentially losing your appetite. Now,
Okay, yeah.
I've found kind of the temptation to basically just stop eating and just start fasting, because, in my experience, sometimes you really just don't feel like eating anything. Is it good to just go with trust your appetite, or is it better to kind of consistently eat? What are your thoughts?
There's definitely a bit of like nuance or conjecture around this sort of stuff, and I love the intuitive approach, but that doesn't work for everyone. And also, I'd like to sort of be very mindful of men and women are very different in terms of their biology and their endocrine system and the hormones and stuff like that. So we just have to be mindful that men can fast generally a little bit longer than females without sort of compromising thyroid, for example. And unfortunately, I don't really agree with the whole calories in, calories out model. I've never really counted them, that sort of stuff, but we do have to keep in mind, we still have to fuel the vessel, if you will. So, if you're hitting, a rough amount of a protein target would be more ideal. And then once you know how much protein you're hitting each day, then you're gonna achieve that and you're gonna be sort of okay. But yeah, in terms of the actual question, guys can go a little bit longer, go a little bit less food if they like to achieve whatever they want from the fast. But women, I just want to be mindful of your thyroid is much more potentially a detriment. It can be abused a little bit. So I just want to preface that it's something that it's not spoken about, and thyroid's not tested properly, all of these things. So we don't want you jumping on for 30 days and getting a bunch of weight loss. Like, you will absolutely lose weight on an eating style like this, but it's not fair to compromise your thyroid in 30 days. And it can happen. 30 days is rapid for a thyroid. It's enough time, for the thyroid to be compromised. So with that, if you're not hungry, I would suggest doing something like a bone broth with some collagen in there, because collagen's got all the protein, amino acids. And then you can throw like an egg yolk in there, whiz it up if you like in a NutriBullet or a hand whizzer. Just something to keep the thyroid moving, keeping your hormones moving, getting some sort of an insulin response, not anything too crazy, obviously. Like, glucose management is a really good benefit of such diet, if you want to call it a diet. I just like to be mindful of people's circumstances, and especially women. I think fasting is a great tool, absolutely, but can be abused. And unfortunately, if you're not aware of your thyroid, how it's functioning, like not many of us are. So we don't want to compromise that in a 30-day window, and then you have to there has to be intervention after the 30 days. It's not what we're trying to achieve. So to sort of wrap that little segment up, I guess, guys, go for the longer ones, but make sure you're hitting enough protein and enough fat whenever you do decide to eat. And be intuitive. If you're hungry, go and eat some more. Don't feel the guilt and the shame and that sort of stuff. Like, that's what we're trying to relinquish as well. We want to build a better relationship with food, with the people that we're consuming it with, and all of that sort of stuff. And that's what they're the tiny little things that people don't really speak about. I feel like culturally, socially, and just building better relationships with the mind, the body, and what we're putting into it. Be intuitive, eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full, but just be mindful of the vessel that you're carrying. You want to sustain that and give that enough nutrition.
Absolutely. And putting those processes in place now and thinking about your thyroid and thinking about keeping, the vessel moving is going to mean that long-term, you're going to reap benefits. This isn't about a kind of crash 30 days. This is trying to make a lasting change and change your relationship with food and become more intuitive with your body and how it responds to food as well. So, you got to be gentle with it, and let's make a lasting change for a long time. So that's a really good point, Tom. Tom, if people are going to venture away, or outside of purely just animal products like meat, fat, organs, into, veg, fruit. Which ones are the ones that we really should be avoiding, and what vegetables or fruit are going to be more gentle on us, and contribute to our nutrition rather than take us backwards?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, again, this is another one that's like a pretty not taboo, but you could imagine like people's opinions get involved, and
Totally.
I think it's pretty crazy. But I think the main thing, like I'll start with, is like I want it to serve you, like whether that's nutritionally or emotionally. Like as I said, we're trying to build a better relationship with food and people that we're consuming it with. But things that I think every human should absolutely avoid is probably like seed oils and vegetable oils. But that's pretty, it's not common knowledge, but I think we're getting there with that one. So
it should be.
Yeah. So everyone please absolutely avoid seed oils and vegetable oils, and they're hidden. So please check your labels. Unfortunately, a lot of alternative milks have these in them, and causing a myriad of situations that we'd need to have a whole nother chat about to go through. So no seed oils, no processed foods ideally. If it is going to be a processed food, I do opt for like sort of raw treats, like if you're going like coconutty oil, dates, that sort of stuff, like you get a raw treat. I think they're pretty safe. They're high fat, generally pretty low carb. So if it's a processed food and like that serves you, if you're going a 30-day challenge where you've discarded all of these foods you used to eat, of course, there's going to be an emotional element to that. So I think it's important to serve us in a certain way. So raw treats are a good option. Just check the ingredients. Generally, I go for the ones with the least ingredients and lots of cacao. Cacao is awesome for us, so safe. So no seed oils, no processed foods, no sugar. Obviously, that's like sort of in conjunction with the processed foods. And then I think staying away from, high glycemic foods. So we're talking like bananas, oats. Oats can be low, but that sort of wheat, grain, and legume category is something that I would avoid. I don't think any human should be consuming any wheat these days anyway. But again, open to people's opinions and stuff like that. But everyone lives on a spectrum of tolerance. So some people can be a little bit sensitive to wheat, and some people can be very sensitive. Like, celiac is obviously this end of the spectrum. And then some people they don't experience the symptoms, but the symptoms are occurring. They don't run optimally anyway, so they can't really see that. But I don't think any of our guts are meant to process, the wheat of nowadays anyway, unless it's been, fermented or something like that. So any wheat, grain, legume, I would avoid for the 30 days, and then sort of start reintroducing those foods when they're fermented, soaked, sprouted, that sort of stuff. But I would stay away from breads, pastas, rices, and that sort of stuff. I think that's important. But any high glycemic stuff in terms of fruits. So we want to be using like berries, so raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, that sort of stuff's great. I think that's awesome. And honey is another one there. So it's a really good, source of glucose and fructose, and antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, all the benefits of honey. So honey was one of the first foods that I reintroduced in terms of like a sugar or glucose source. I think honey's essential. And these sorts of things like berries and honey and even dates, even though dates are high glycemic, they're great for, the conversation we just had about women and thyroid. I think, to add, if you're having steak and eggs or whatever your meal looks like in terms of an animal source, it'd be great to throw some berries in there, some honey in there, just to, to bolster up that meal in terms of response for thyroid and stuff like that. And then if you want to move on to vegetables, I'd like stick to root vegetables. So carrots, beetroots, sweet potatoes, and any sort of measure like that. Pumpkin, squash, zucchini are pretty, quote unquote safe. I'll try not to use language like toxic and stuff like that, because I think that's running our people into a bit of trouble. And there's only things that are toxic are the things that are manufactured, unfortunately. So yeah, people just live on a spectrum of tolerance. Like I said, like a bunch of people can't tolerate any nightshades, so they can't tolerate tomatoes and stuff like that. So this is the idea of the 30 days. It's sort of like, eliminate the things that are, in potential to give us a bit of discomfort, and then we can, start to reintroduce things. And then by hopefully the 30 days and onwards, like we said, you become a bit more intuitive and see what foods piss us off a little bit, or what foods sit really well with us, and stuff like that. But with this one, I will mention not to do any raw vegetables, because I think that's a bit harsh on the digestive system. That's what I personally think. But yeah, so no salads and stuff like that. I would stick to the root vegetables, berries and honey. I think that's a really good place to start, and they can be incorporated into all meals throughout the day, and that would really benefit us. So like at dinner time, slow cooked meal, lamb shanks and a sweet potato mash or something like that. I think that's that's going to be pretty okay for everyone. And then again, that like slow carbohydrate is going to help throughout sleep, so that's going to aid in the sleep. If we're doing really zero carb, that sort of vibe, that's when people start to run into the sleep issues and waking up in the night to wee and stuff like that. So yeah, I think a slow release carbohydrate at night time is going to be beneficial as well. So don't be scared of the toxic thing and stuff like that. We want to be serving the vessel and long lasting changes. So yeah, at night time a slow release carb would be awesome.
Cool. Tom, I might keep you on the train of talking about sleep. Because I know that with carnivore and with this new way of eating, it can kind of go either way. Either you can have a really disrupted sleep, you can have insomnia, you can be going to the bathroom every hour or two, or if you kind of mix in the right sort of carbohydrates, eat at the right times, look after yourself, you can experience deeper sleep than you've ever had before. So how would we optimize our sleep in these 30 days and then for the rest of our life?
Yeah, so I think sleep is the most important pillar of health. There's a few pillars. We won't get into them, but I think sleep is at the top, or the biggest pillar, because I don't care if your nutrition's on point, like you've done 100 days carnivore or low carb, and then you've hit the gym every other day for that 100 days. If you're not having good sleep, you're compromised. Like if you're not getting enough sleep or good quality sleep, you wake up the next day and you are more insulin resistant. So, I mean, that's just a very little example of like, if you don't get good quality sleep or enough of it, it doesn't matter how good your diet is the next day, you won't be processing the fuel as well.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Like a really, really basic small fact. Like, and then, it's been shown where chose to make poorer choices the next day after bad sleep. It just goes on and on. So you can imagine if your sleep's not really there, or your other pillars might be there, but the sleep's going to really, really let you down. So, but they all go hand in hand, and it's interwoven. So you can imagine if you start picking and doing the best bang for your buck things, they will all start to level out, and then your sleep will hopefully get a little bit better. But in terms of getting a good night's sleep, it's kind of tough in our modern day. It's really hard. People get up before the sun and go to work, and they're there before the sun's up. And in terms of circadian rhythm and stuff like that, we're meant to rise with the sun, and we're meant to see it first thing in the morning. So that's what I try to do. I try to wake with the sun and expose the big areas of my skin to that sun, even if it's a little bit cloudy or rainy. I want to expose like the torso or the back or like legs, like big areas of the skin to receive that sunlight, and let my body know, hey, it's morning, and then we can start leveling out all of our hormones and stuff like that to tell us it's daytime. And I believe the night's sleep that we're having starts the morning of. So I think that's important to mention as well. And things, the sun is the biggest dictator of that. So yeah, I try to get my bare eyes into the sun first thing in the morning, as well as the skin, no sunglasses and stuff like that. So yeah, early morning sun is not damaging to our retina or to our skin. So I think that's an important one. And then yeah, just not eating too close to bedtime. So I recommend sort of like 2 to 3 hours before going to sleep. That would be your last bite of food or bite of like liquid calories, if that makes sense. And then if you can incorporate some sort of relaxation time before bed, you and I both have blue blockers on right now. I'm pretty sure yours are blue blockers.
Yeah.
I think, they're an investment, but I think one of the most important investments, especially nowadays. You can think everyone works on a laptop, everyone uses their phone all day long. They get home, they watch Netflix, all of these things. It's just like it's just artificial blue light in the face all day long. And, that's essentially just telling all of our hormones in our body that it's not time to sleep, because it's getting that signal. So blue blockers are a great option. I would recommend investing in them. I think they're awesome. And then with that slowing down before bed, you don't want to be charged up. So if you're that way inclined, do like a herbal tea, like I do at the moment. That's my nighttime routine. There's a herbal tea in a book, and there's like little supplements in there. Or maybe throw that in another chat or something like that. But there's bobs you can do to enhance. But I think this conversation is just about the basics, and it's eat 2 to 3 hours before bed, and then a herbal tea and some blue blockers, or just not having your ceiling lights on. I think that's a big one. Try and use like lamps that are a bit lower to the ground, or salt lamps. Incandescent lights are way better. So if you want to swap your bulbs out instead of that abrasive blue light. But just quickly with that, like if you think about it, the sun's above our head all day long and then it goes down. So if we go into our home over night time and switch the lights on, our physiology thinks that the sun's up because that artificial blue light is above our head. So it's a good little analogy to use. Like, try not to use your ceiling lights of a night time, and just see if it makes a difference. And that's saving money, not paying electricity of a night time is key. So yeah, these are just like little things that we can incorporate to help us have a deeper sleep. And just, I guess whilst I'm on the sleep topic, is turning off your Wi-Fi routers at night time, or any sort of technology in the room, even if they're on standby, stuff like that. We want to take that out of the room. The room is for rest, it's for recovery, it's to allow the body to do what it's meant to do while sleeping, not be disrupted by technology. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it with the sleep. I mean, it's a whole.
No, that's really helpful, Tom. Yeah, I know we can keep going on that one.
Sure.
But yeah, I think like a lot of your tips there, once you hear them, they are very intuitive, and it's kind of replicating a more natural environment whereby the sun actually is going down, it's darker, and you're unwinding after a day. You're not feeding more stimulation into your brain. I think, if you're more conscious about the importance of really high quality sleep, then, and you hear a few tips like this, you will intuitively put more effort into it, and eventually you'll get better results. That's the way I see it anyway. I think that was really helpful. All right, Tom, well, mate, that was a great chat. We covered what to expect when you're first transitioning onto, a lower carb, say carnivore diet. Because it can be really challenging, and if you go it alone and you don't have any support and you don't really know what you're doing, all you know is that you're eating meat, fat and organs, you can experience some really tough things, which both can be avoided, but also just because it's tough doesn't mean that it's actually serving you, and it might not be setting you up long term to develop that better relationship with your food and achieve the mental clarity and the physique that you're really after. In terms of some of the tips that Tom mentioned, we spoke about the importance of salt and electrolytes. We spoke about digestive enzymes and how they can help you process the fat. We spoke about, particularly for women, managing your thyroid, and that might mean eating berries, like Tom mentioned, or dates with meals along the way. And if you're not hungry, maybe have a bone broth and put an egg yolk in there and whisk it up, but keep the fuel coming. In terms of which foods to avoid raw, avoid vegetable and seed oils, introduce some root vegetables, and start to prioritize your sleep, because you should be, or you have the opportunity to sleep better than ever for this 30-day period and going and onwards. And as Tom explained, it's really important. So Tom, I really appreciate you sharing some of your knowledge. And yeah, it was really good to chat. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that was awesome. It was a good little chat. And like we said, there's many more little rabbit holes we can go down and advice and stuff like that. I'd probably just end with like, we don't want to be adding more stress to the 30 days. So just, have fun, be intuitive, and don't stress about the little things. Don't stress about going organic veg and stuff like that. Just sort of take what you will, and don't add more stress. So don't be doing all the fasting and stuff like that. You don't have to. You'll be seeing all the benefits soon come. So thank you so much, Simon, for having a chat and just broadening the conversation and hopefully achieving more vitality for many Aussies. So it's great to see. It's great to be a part of the movement. So much appreciated.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Tom.
Cheers, bro. I'll speak to you soon.